Welcome back to the weekend. We start this hour with new developments in Donald Trump's classified documents case and Judge Aileen Cannon embracing everything the ex-president throws her way. Yesterday, she actually held a hearing on whether Jack Smith was legally appointed as special counsel. Yeah, you heard that right. Trump's lawyers argued that Attorney General Merrick Garland's ability to appoint Smith was comparable to the power of a shadow government. Cannon was skeptical, questioning whether that was a realistic assessment. But as we've come to expect, she also displayed distrust of the prosecutors. Also, this week, the New York Times reports that federal judges in South Florida advised Cannon to not take this case when it was assigned to her last year. Cannon, of course, refused. And here we are. We have two former federal prosecutors here to break it all down. MSNBC legal analyst Christy Greenberg. She's the former deputy chief for the Southern District of New York Criminal Division and senior writer for Politico magazine, Ankush Khardori. Welcome back to both.
Christy, you described this hearing as a meeting that could have been an email. Tell me why.
Yeah, I mean, have you ever been in a meeting and you're sitting
all
there
day,
like,
every day?
Why are we here?
Uh-huh.
That's this hearing. This hearing could have easily been resolved with an order. The question is very basic. Did Merrick Garland, as the AG, have the authority to appoint a special counsel? The answer is clearly yes. There's statutory authority that gives him the right to do so. How do we know that? The Supreme Court has said so. It's a deeply rooted tradition to have these outside counsel come in and conduct investigations of executive branch officials. Who said that? Brett Kavanaugh. So even a baby judge who's new to this knows as a district court judge, you got to follow what the Supreme Court says. So, you know, I come back to like, what's actually going on here? We've now had, about a year of Judge Cannon and seeing what she's up to. And it seems like she's got a playbook here. The first is distract. Take these very simple legal issues and make them seem really complicated. So we're not talking about Donald Trump willfully retaining classified information in the nation's secrets. We're talking about Merrick Garland's authority and Jack Smith. So distraction is step one. Step two is use these complications, use these supposed complications to delay, to say, I need briefing, I need argument, bring in outside parties, everybody come in and say what you need to say. And then after the argument, we're going to have more briefing. And then I don't have to set a trial date because I've got so much I need to deal with. That's step two. And step three is disparage the prosecutors along the way. Take every opportunity you can to scold them. And every time she runs this playbook, and we've seen it again and again, Donald Trump wins. So I have been one of the people before who kind of gave her the benefit of the doubt and said, well, maybe she's just incompetent, maybe she's just inexperienced. But no, this is very calculated. And it shows bias because every time Donald Trump wins when she runs the play.
Coach, this is such a surreal, kind of weird moment for everybody. I mean, I think even people who are just sort of, adjacent to this kind of look at this and go, well, this is kind of shut and dry, shutting open and shut in this case. I wanted to hear some of Trump's own words, admitting he knows the materials in this classified documents case was classified. Let's take a listen.
These are the papers. This was done by the military, given to me. I think we can probably get it.
I don't know. We'll have to see. Yeah, we'll have to try to figure out a
See, as president, I could have declassified it. Now I can't, but this is classified.
Now we have a problem.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
It's so cool. I mean, it's so, look, here I have, and you probably almost didn't believe me, but now you believe me.
No, I believe
It's incredible, right?
No,
hey, bring some Cokes in, please.
As president, I could have declassified it. Now I can't, But this is classified out of his own mouth. So what about this case or this audio alone does Judge Aileen Cannon not get in terms of moving this trial along?
Yeah, well,
I'm undone.
We're undone here.
I mean, look, the actual facts of the case, or at least the allegations, if we assume that they're true, have been quite bad for Trump the whole time, particularly that piece of evidence and others. What is keeping this case from going to trial is a very complicated question. Like, as Christy alluded to, there's been sort of an ongoing debate for months now about, is Judge Cannon sort of in the tank for Trump, or like trying to become a Supreme Court justice in a second Trump term? Is she inexperienced or perhaps in over her head? I don't know that we really need to come down one side. I kind of think it may be a little from column A and column B, depending on the situation. But I think the key thing at this point is, like, this case is not going to go to trial before November. And we kind of all just have to sort of deal with that, for better or worse. Hopefully, they will come to some sort of orderly resolution. She's holding the first of 3 days worth of hearings. So I think one optimistic way of looking at this is she is sort of slowly trying to move her way through this. But I will say one last point. It would have been much better for everyone, except perhaps for Donald Trump, if she had taken the advice of those two judges who suggested to her that she give up this case.
Yeah. According to the New York Times, and I'm just like, well, she thought she was going to get her time in the sun, I think, and it is shining. It's hot. And I don't know how it's going to come down. I mean, Christy, I would like to know why Judge Cannon grilled the federal prosecutors about if Merrick Garland is overseeing their work. She had a lot of questions. I mean, let's pull this up. She grilled the prosecutors on Friday on how closely Attorney General Merrick Garland was looking at what they are doing, even though Jack Smith and his entire team have been clear that he's an independent, operation, and that is why a special prosecutor exists. Why is she asking questions that we seemingly know the answers to already?
Yeah, so again, trying to view this in the most charitable way to her, she is looking at whether or not in the appointments clause, Merrick Garland, the AG, is allowed to appoint an inferior officer, right? So that would seem to suggest that there is at least some level of oversight. But she was asking very specific questions about, well, did Merrick Garland sign off and approve on the indictment? And the prosecutor rightly said, well, we're not going to get, based on policy, and we're not going to get into our internal deliberations with you. She doesn't get to know necessarily the specifics of what went on in DOJ, but she does know what the regulations say, which is, Merrick Garland did have the opportunity, if he thought Jack Smith was going rogue, if he was doing something that was completely inappropriate or contrary to DOJ guidelines, to block his action. So that does show that, yes, he was an inferior officer. He ultimately was overseen, even if not in every aspect of day-to-day supervision of this case, there was ultimate oversight by the AG, and that's clear from the regulations. She didn't have to go into the details of what happened in this case. And by the way, there's just an irony here of Donald Trump saying, well, Joe Biden he's the one directing everything. He's the one telling us what to do, and then going into court and saying, Jack Smith is totally independent, so he can't be an inferior officer under this regulation. He's just doing his own thing. Two things can't be true at the same time. And you would have expected an oral argument that to maybe be brought up. But of course, it was Judge Cannon, so it wasn't.
Well, and I think that's the point, Ankush, which is neither of those things are true. And that is their intention, right, to sow doubt in the process itself. I'm looking at the banner at the bottom of our screen. Judge Cannon weighs Jack Smith's removal in Trump case. And it strikes me that you could switch the names there and say Jack Smith weighs Judge Cannon's removal in Trump case, because that is what we could be talking about, right? And part of the challenge for Jack Smith and his team is that they are weighing that if that was the path they wanted to proceed down, then you're looking at further delay, right? And so there's both the bar he has to clear in terms of seeking her removal, and there's also the inevitable time that bakes into a case that has already, Ankush, been delayed over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the odds of Jack Smith seeking her to have her removed from the case, they still remain quite low.
Right.
However frustrating some of these decisions may be to folks, I still don't think they rise individually or cumulatively to this very high standard that tends to apply in these situations. I will say, though, the tension that you identified, Alicia, is one that sort of courses throughout Trump's legal defenses here, because, again, you're seeing the political side of him, which is, this is a Biden-led conspiracy to take me down and prevent my reelection. That's a political argument, right? The legal argument now, when he's actually in court, is that Jack Smith is a rogue prosecutor, untethered from any kind of supervision, even within the Justice Department, subject to Merrick Garland. And when these paths cross, they're impossible to reconcile, as Christy correctly noted. But they are designed for two separate audiences, which is part of what makes the whole thing somewhat pernicious.
Christy, I'm curious as to how all of this plays out and sort of ripples across the remaining cases. that are there, certainly affecting the timeline. As Ankush mentioned earlier, this is not going to go to trial before November. You have other decisions that have to be made by this judge that could affect this case and may have some ripple effects. You know, for example, if she accepts the idea that, okay, I'm just going to dismiss it, if she dismisses it in a way in which the prosecutors can't bring the case again, that has an impact. How do you see what this judge is doing in this case affecting the remaining cases, and how prosecutors and judges are looking at what's before them?
Well, I think it's really interesting that the defense team has sort of been cherry picking what arguments they will bring before this judge versus what arguments they brought before Judge Chutkan. So, and I think to your point, to make sure that maybe what she's doing here, what Judge Chutkan did, couldn't necessarily affect what she's doing. Granted, neither judge's decisions are binding on the other, but certainly given the same kinds of fact patterns. So, for example, this appointments clause, whether or not Merrick Garland had the authority to appoint Jack Smith. That's an argument that the defense team did not bring before Judge Chutkan. Why? Because they knew she would say, "You're done. He's clearly got the authority. We don't need to go any further. I don't need to have a hearing." And that could have at least made it look bad for Judge Cannon to then do what she's doing now. So I think that the Trump team is very aware of what they can get away with. The prosecutors similarly didn't go right away to Judge Cannon to get a gag order. They went to Judge Chutkan knowing that would be a more friendly audience. So, look, I don't think any of these cases are happening before the election, but I do think you're seeing gamesmanship on both sides from the lawyers of figuring out who's their friendly audience to really raise their arguments with, so as to try and get, the best record they can in each of these cases.